Pod. Welcome back, Pod, to another episode of Say Who, Say Pod. He's Danny O'Neil in a sport coat / sports jacket. I'm Christian Caple. The Washington Huskies are 8-3 after a 48-14. If it was a thrashing against Purdue, I suppose this was a demolition against the more hapless than I expected UCLA Bruins. This is not a good football team. They had their little mini resurgence after they fired Deshaun Foster, beat Penn State, which was a great moment for them, beat Michigan State badly, beat Maryland on a field goal at the last second at home. And it's been rough since then. Blown out by Indiana, home loss to Nebraska, and then blown out by Ohio State. And now blown out by Washington in what might have been the final regular season game at the Rose Bowl. You stayed up late for that one, I assume. Did you watch it all? I always ask this, I know, but there was cause to check out in the fourth quarter. Nobody would have blamed you.
I wanted to watch some of the younger players play. I also wanted to see if Jed was going to keep going for it on fourth down.
So that's always tough because especially when you're in field goal range in a blowout and you're up, it doesn't make sense to kick it, right? Like, what's the more sportsmanlike thing to do there? Because if you kick it, you're intentionally trying to add points. If you go for it, you could justify it as like, well, we're just trying to maintain possession and keep running the football here.
We're giving you the opportunity to stop us. Look, it's not, Washington did not take the most easygoing approach to the end of game. Like, they continued to throw it. I won't say super aggressively. I also don't feel like it crosses that line into where they're trying to show them up. I didn't feel that way. I don't know. I also just generally think that when you're winning, you get the right to choose how you want to handle that. And I don't think they did anything to curry favor with the sports gods, but I'm not sure they did anything to like totally flout the laws of etiquette either. I would say, if you're going to ask me, that continuing to throw the ball is the bigger question as opposed to the going forward on fourth down. The way they continue to push the ball down the field.
One place where laws of etiquette are never flouted, Danny, is Chuck Olson Kia in Shoreline. Right. Our good friends at Chuck Olson Kia in Shoreline with a friendly, low-pressure sales staff and a competitively priced selection of vehicles. If you make your next vehicle buying experience Chuck Olson Kia, you will be buying from a locally owned and operated business since 1964, a business family-owned and operated by a family of University of Washington graduates. If you check him out, please find our friend Henry Olson, ask for him. And if you talk to Henry Olson, tell him Say Who, Say Pod sent you. Today's episode of Say Who, Say Pod is also brought to you by our friends at Husky Mobile, which is partnered directly with the University of Washington to offer affordable phone plans for the Husky community with up to 7% of each bill going back to UW athletics. Subscribers can also enjoy game day perks like Fast Pass lanes, seat upgrades, and giveaways, all while on T-Mobile's nationwide 5G network. Visit GoHuskyMobile.com. That's GoHuskyMobile.com to make the switch today. And if you use code ONMontlake, that's code ONMontlake at checkout, you can get your first month free when transferring your number. Thanks also to our friends at Husky Mobile for sponsoring today's show.
They got to remember to spell On Montlake. ONMONTLAKE.
That's correct. There's no U. There's no U in Montlake, not Montlake Terrace. It's an important distinction.
And when you go to talk to Henry Olson, also tell them On Montlake, although he's not going to make you spell it.
He won't. And I'm not going to spell Say Who, Say Pod. I think it's pretty. It's pretty. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can probably see it right there on the screen. In fact,
could be a whole new show. It'd be Spell Who, Spell Pod.
There you go. Yeah. Another pretty taking care of business week for Jed Fish's Washington Huskies. And I think if anything, it's like, if you did the whole cover up the 3 games before Oregon, Wisconsin, Purdue, UCLA, and then just reveal first the UCLA result, you'd go, oh, wow, that's a team rounding into form. Mm-hmm. And then reveal the Purdue result, and you go, okay, they're really getting it done. and then reveal the Wisconsin result. And one of those doesn't belong, although we get a little bit more data on Wisconsin now. Took it to Illinois over the weekend. My goodness. So
more of a commentary on Illinois or Wisconsin?
Yeah.
Little bit of both.
You know me,
You've been a Illinois doubter from the beginning.
I've not bought the hype on Illinois. I feel like that's been justified, although they didn't have like a really bad loss. In fact, we're ranked in the college football playoff rankings last week. Won't be this week. But that, I think we do know enough now that like, if you thought Wisconsin was like a 2 challenge-wise going into that game, maybe now it should have been seen as like a 4 or 5. Okay, I don't think it excuses losing that game by any stretch, but it does, this wasn't like losing at Purdue or, gosh, I guess losing at UCLA, because they did not look up to the challenge on Saturday. That looked like an interim coaching staff. And to be fair, like, I think it's fair to wonder if Nico Iamaleava was fully healthy going into this game. Obviously, he left with an injury after taking a pretty sharp hit to the head there from Devin Bryant. Just a very flat performance from UCLA all around, and another really I thought really sound, very physical performance by Washington's defense.
Washington's defense and the improvement it has made over the course of the season has been the best thing to feel good about. If you're looking for sort of hope for the future, I think the improvement of their defense and the way they don't give up big plays is a real big high point. Even as they've fluctuated personnel, not had some of their best players available all the time, the defense has been a huge bright spot for this season.
And I think you got to I always give a ton of credit to any coaching staff that switches up what they're used to doing traditionally as a response to available personnel and molds their scheme to the guys who have to go execute it. Ryan Walters talked about this last week. I haven't gotten through the whole TV copy yet. Like I'm watching any other copy. The TV copy, the broadcast, the only broadcast, the one that people watch. I heard that they did discuss this on the broadcast, that, in which he talked about with reporters earlier in the week, that, hey, it's a lot more cover 3 than he's used to running. I'm curious to ask, and we're recording this on Monday early to accommodate Danny's annual sojourn to Yosemite for there'll be a soccer game, but I think there's some Thanksgiving festivities mixed in there. Yeah,
we do. We have 3 nights of O'Neil family gathering. I haven't gotten the final tally of how many O'Neils will be there, but usually it's in the neighborhood of 70 to 80 people that congregate.
So I plan to kind of follow up with Ryan Walters about this week. But the other kind of component of his adjustments this year is, I think you kind of expected to see a ton of 5-man fronts, right? Like that's what you heard was, what's his defense? Is it a 3-4-4 with 2 outside linebackers? Is it a 5-1-5 as you've kind of seen it described? And it's been, in terms of just like personnel on the field, it's often been the 4-2-5 that you've kind of become accustomed to seeing around Washington for the last little bit now. I mean, really since early Chris Peterson, when they switched to that base nickel, and they always had the 2 interior D linemen and 2 outside linebackers, edges, rush ends, whatever you want to call them, with obviously changes from time to time based on down and distance and everything. But yeah, it's been a lot of 2 interior guys. It's been a lot of 2 edge rushers. You have seen, they'll bring an inside linebacker off the edge. I think Zadrius Rainey-Saleh is a guy you're probably going to see involved a lot more in the pass rush as his career kind of progresses. And, we'll see what happens with Ryan Walters' own future. If they can get him to stick around a little bit, who knows. But I think they've done a really good job just keeping plays in front of them. This is not, UCLA had a shot available there that I think it was Rashawn Clark tried to undercut and get a hand on it, went just over his hand to an open receiver, and he dropped it. Other than that, I mean, they really didn't push the ball down the field. I think the stat was they were 0, at least Iamaleava was 0 for 3 on throws that traveled longer than 9 yards. I mean, 0 for 3 on throws that traveled longer than 9 yards. They were not pushing the ball down the field. They were settling for underneath. And even what they settled for underneath was a lot of just very few yards after the catch. Washington's defense was very much on top of things in this game.
Also, the way they hit, I think, has been impressive over the course of the season. I thought Prysock probably had his best tackling game. Like, I thought he was very, very physical. Jacob Manu is a hitter, and it was interesting to see him out there. I hadn't realized that this was going to be the final game he was going to play. I also think that that's absolutely the right call to make with players in that sort of situation of he gets to decide when he wants to play. I think that's very consistent. Like, that's one of the things I like that Jed does but you watch that defense and it has become a much better unit over the course of the season. I do think there are some limitations up front, but that defense has improved over the course of the season in a way that should make everybody really excited. You mentioned Walter's future. We don't know what the offseason is going to look like, but I think that there's a lot of reason to think that if Jed Fish is back, he's back, and that they have a chance to really have something on both sides of the ball next year.
Yeah, admittedly, like it's not something that's really crossed my mind. Like, oh, could another school like lure Ryan Walters away? He's being paid well. I think if money were the deciding factor, they probably would just pay him. He signed I believe a 2-year deal. Might have been 3. I think a 2-year deal. And, unless he gets another crack at a head coaching job, he doesn't seem like the kind of guy to me who's like always looking for, how do I absolutely maximize my salary, or what's the next best thing? Okay, I did this for a year. Much has been made about the fact that his parents live in Seattle. And I think he likes, he's mentioned in August, hey, it's great being able to stop off and meet my dad for an impromptu dinner, or, obviously having grandparents around the kids. Like, that's a great thing for them. And Jed Fish mentioned that when he hired him, that like he was looking for someone, I think, who was, similar enough in defensive philosophy to what they'd already implemented under Steve Belichick, so that there'd be some continuity there. And I do think he was looking for somebody who had reason to want to stick around for a year or two, if not longer. So not a year or two, 2 years or more. 1 year would not be sticking around. So that's not something that's super top of mind for me. I just mention it because, hey, you never know. And I think they are to the point defensively, statistically at least, where programs that maybe do have an opening, that have a defensive coordinator who gets a head coaching job somewhere or whatever, might look to him, might look and see, oh, wow, look at what Ryan Walters is doing in year 1 at Washington. I need to go back. I need to find the last season they played, and it might still not happen, right? They got Oregon coming in this week, and then they'll have a bowl game. The last season they played where they did not allow more than 25 points in a game, because you think of even some of those great defenses under Chris Peterson, they did not have a whole season where they didn't allow more than 25, right? And some of them were garbage time, blowout. I think they beat Cal 65-27 or something like that in 2016. Well, that's more than 25, right? 2018, they gave up, what was it, 35 or so to Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. Mm-hmm. Gave up 30 plus to Penn State in 2017. Gave up 30 to Stanford in 2017. So, I mean, they have been you wouldn't put this defense necessarily alongside those, but they've been very, very consistent in terms of keeping opponents off the scoreboard, which I'm told is the most important thing.
It's been a group that has, after a lot of uncertainty, kind of when the year started, and they've gone through some injuries. They've had guys not available. In some cases, some of their best players haven't always been available. They made a great deal of progress. The offense, I think the offense has been extraordinary, and the difference this game was they did it on the road. This was the first time they had one of those performances on the road. But I know that I expected that. I expected their offense to be good this year. Maybe not as good as they've been in almost all games. There's really only one One game where the Wisconsin game where it was just they never really got going, and they didn't do much against Ohio State, but that's a top ranked team in the country. The defense was much more uncertain, and I think they've done a really good job. I've been floored at how they've limited big plays. And granted, it's the Big Ten, and you don't have the most aggressive downfield passing games, but it's still like what you said, that consistently holding teams to below 25 points, or always holding teams to below 25 points in college football, it's unusual. The game, weird stuff happens, and they've been a good, solid unit all year long with a lot of young guys who give you reason to expect this group to be really good. I mean, at this point, they've got 3 true freshmen that play significant spots for them.
Obviously, it's Purdue and it's UCLA. But I'll say, man, after watching this team at Wisconsin and the weather, and I know, but to think that they'd score 49, 48 in back-to-back weeks, basically without Jonah Coleman or Denzel Boston. I know both did literally technically play in this game, but not really, right? And with 2 starting offensive linemen out. You know, I give the coaching staff credit for this. We talked after the Michigan game. I thought that was a glaring example of like their O-line is way better, but you see how any one injury, I mean, especially at tackle, really puts them up against it, really changes the picture.
They're deeper now, though. I mean, I would say that they're deeper than they were 2 months ago along that offensive line, just with the rotation, the way that you've seen guys play. And I mean, some of that, when you're playing first and second year guys on the offensive line, you're going to see growth over the season, but they're a deeper offensive line, certainly, than they were in the Michigan game.
Is it possible that Max McCree's injury like forced them to find their best tackle combination? Because it sure seems like, and if you've got Carver Willis healthy, and he tweaked his knee a little bit in this game. Jed Fish said he was fine. We are recording this before Jed Fish's Monday press conference, so it's always possible new information could come out. Forgive us if things change, but with Carver Willis healthy, it sure seems like if Drew Azzopardi is out, they are best off with John Mills at right tackle.
Yes.
That might have been the case from the jump. And, you know, obviously, that's not a responsibility you want to throw on a true freshman who's already figuring out how to start at left guard for the first time. But I wonder, like, if McCree were healthy, would they have ever turned to Mills at right tackle? Would they have thrown McCree out there and said, okay, well, this is our number 3 tackle, and away we go? You saw in this game, interestingly enough, when Carver Willis did come out, who played left tackle? It was Paki Finau.
Yep.
Moved over from left guard. They moved Hatchett from right guard to left guard. They put in Champ Talealea at right guard, and he played a bunch there anyway. So they really seem to have like settled on a top 8, and got, I think, with Max McCree out and with the results being what they were at Wisconsin, they got a little creative and really tried to figure out, like, okay, with the healthy available players, if Landon Hatchett is out and if Drew Azzopardi is out, what are the best 5 at the best 5 positions? Like, what's the best group that we can put out there? And they really seem to have figured it out. So I give them credit for kind of adapting. I know Jed Fish mentioned, like, hey, at Wisconsin, it's, you know, they didn't necessarily have contingency plans in place beyond Swane Solo as the next tackle up. And then when that didn't go so well, now you're trying to shuffle on the fly. You don't have a week to like get everybody ready in those spots. It seems like they've really kind of crafted that toward everybody's abilities.
You also just have to look at it that a true freshman playing on the offensive line, like his growth over the course of the year and the development that you're going to have, and you basically got 2 true freshmen that have gotten time. They're not going to be the same players in November that they were in September or October. And I do think that the overall growth that you've seen up front is a testament to the younger players really growing and understanding what goes into playing at Big Ten football.
If I were better prepared, I would have had you would have done another live huddle highlight watch of Cody Green's senior year at Mater Dei. So that's, you know, I've been projecting John Mills to move over to left tackle next season. But if Cody Green, now you talk about a 5-star I, 5-star left tackle, he's always been that. Or maybe he was a fringe 4-star for a while. But now, like, you look at what he's put on tape and you hear Jed Fish talk about, like, oh, and then we've got some exciting prospects coming in next year. I wonder if they're not already slating Cody Green for the John Mills year one duty, which would be a nice problem to have, because I think they've got like 6 or 7 guys who you really like and feel good about, but only 5 can play, and which is a problem that really good teams always have on the offensive line. And so that's sort of what you're trying to work toward.
You're going to experience injuries up front. I mean, I think that's the one almost certainty. The year that Washington ended up going and playing for the national championship, those are the aberration when you're able to go through a whole year basically playing with your offensive line. Like, there's just attrition up front. It happens.
This was a classic Jed Fish players coach game, wasn't it?
Yes. Giving guys opportunities. He wants to have guys feel like they're involved and excited about the chances that they're getting. I think, look, not having Raiden Vinesbright there is something that it's unfortunate. It also gave him an opportunity to feature some other young wide receivers to make them feel like they have a place and a role in the team going forward.
What did you think of Jonah Coleman in the fourth quarter?
0. Him coming out, like how he looked?
No, I mean just playing him. Like,
I think it's up to the kid. Like, especially someone like Jonah Coleman. If he wants to get out there, or that would mean something to him to score a touchdown, or having the Big Ten being the leading touchdown scorer in the Big Ten is important to him, hell yeah. I don't have any issue with that. It's really what he wants to do. It does make me wonder, is this a little bit of a balance between, hey, we really want you to be as healthy as possible for the Oregon game? Or is this a situation where he's going to be compromised the rest of the year, and you're not, maybe he'll be back and better for a bowl game, but it's pretty clear he's real banged up. And then you see how hard Adam Muhammad's running.
Yeah. Jed Fish did say after the game that they hoped that giving Jonah Coleman, for the most part this week, would have him either full go or close to it, I think was the phrasing for Oregon. We'll see how true that ends up being. They also talked about wanting to get Denzel Boston as healthy as possible to go play against Oregon as well. He did suit up. He warmed up. He played. He got in I think 2 snaps. Yep. I wonder if they were going to throw it to him on the wound up being a low snap and a broken play, and Damon just had to scoop it and actually threw it toward Jonah Coleman, which I doubt was the design there. But maybe another week does give those guys a little better chance of actually contributing and playing something closer to the role that they have been for this team all year. Denzel Boston had, I think it's his left ankle, pretty heavily taped up, and again was out there doing stuff on it pregame. So it sounds like just whether, a matter of whether he can be able to cut on it and explode off of it and all those things.
Man, I mean, he's played through it for a number of games, so it's clear that he's really trying to play through something that is really painful. And in those sort of situations, maybe having a week of either light duty or not much contact does help. And I mean, it really is up to them, but it might be hey, we're gonna give you the best shot you can to be as healthy as possible to play against Oregon, and see how it goes. But both have been incredible players for the team and among the best players in the country at their position. And I'm mostly just bummed for them that they're physically having to deal with something that prevents them from playing at their best right now.
Yeah, it's too bad. I mean, you look at Jonah Coleman's numbers and it's like, man, they got 1 regular season game left. He's at 600 some rushing yards after such a promising start to the year. He never stopped scoring touchdowns.
Right.
But it did get, first I think he suffered a little bit from the O-line injuries, and now it's just not the same picture. It's not the same running game. And then was hurt himself. How long he's been hurt, I think we don't really fully know. I think he was playing through something for most of last season, and that affected his usage. obviously whatever he was dealing with, he really aggravated against Wisconsin, or maybe that was a new injury. I don't know. I wonder how banged up he was even going into that game. But yeah, it statistically did not turn out to be the year that he hoped for, certainly. But hey, here's one more chance. Maybe he can get healthy enough and show. I'm sure Oregon in particular is one that he's probably had circled, because they just flat out could not run the ball against them last year. What was it? Did he end up with 3 yards or something like that in that game? It was just they couldn't do it. They had to totally abandon it. They were completely overmatched athletically, physically by Oregon last year. So I'm sure he'd love to kind of get that taste out of his mouth and be able to go show well and help Washington as a whole look like a different team against the Ducks this year. We'll see how close he can get to that. But
yeah, I'd say this, Christian, that as you asked the question about and Jed kind of players coach, I will say one of the things I really do like about Jed is that he does feel like a coach for whom the games are for the players. And
definitely
that's especially in college football, that's not how it always is. And for someone like Jonah Coleman, who's a leader on the team, someone who was a leader for Jed at Arizona, I would say I will respond more. I think it's awesome that he got a chance to go in there for that touchdown, because it shows that he's not just turning the page to whoever's most or like whoever the latest guy who's doing well for me, that there is a sense of earned opportunities and he deserves a chance to be showcased or celebrated of coming in. And even if it is for a late touchdown in a game that's already wrapped up, I like that part of how Jed coaches, that I do think that he wants to give his players a chance to really shine. And it's not entirely selfless. He's doing that because he can then point to it of, hey, this is what we're able to do. This is the platform or the opportunities that you get when you come play for one of my teams. But I do think that that's something that's a good approach to have in college football.
Yeah, and I think when I think about the players coach thing from this game, it's Jonah Coleman and it's Jacob Manu, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In that,
yeah.
Look, Jed Fish and this staff, they are going to be professional, cutthroat decision makers with regard to the roster, with regard to recruiting. Every decision, like Jed Fish said last year, when I kind of asked about, hey, like with the house settlement coming up, rosters are going to be smaller. You're probably not going to have as much room for walk-ons. How do you go about those conversations? And he said, look, every decision we make with personnel around here is going to be with an eye toward winning, and that's no different at any other program that's competing at this level in college football. They will clear out space. They will find what they think are the best players that give them the very best chance to win. And however they got to do that, they'll do it. But if you're in the program and if you are on the bus, like this coaching staff has demonstrated that they're going to be for you, mm-hmm. right? They're going to have your back. And I think that Jacob Manu playing in this game is a distinctly collegiate thing, that if this were, I say, and everyone says it's pro football now, and it is. It is. But there are still remnants of this being a collegiate game in ways that you're not going to see at the NFL level. If there were ever any kind of rule where you got to pick and choose 4 games for a guy to play in the NFL, like the decision's going to be made strictly on how do we best maximize this guy's usage to help us win the toughest games we play. There are probably some coaching staffs who would have told Jacob Manu, like, hey, bud, I know you're from Southern California, and I know you probably are going to have a ton of family and friends at this game and you'd love to play, but, we're playing Oregon next week. We really need you against Oregon. And there might even be some feeling of that internally. I don't know, maybe not. But the fact that, hey, I promised this guy and I promised his family that if he was healthy come November 22nd, he would play against UCLA at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
And if that's all there is to it, maybe there's always, could always be some additional calculation behind the scenes. Who knows? But if that's all there is to it, then, I think if you're a Washington fan, you should like that. I think you should like that. I
do like it.
Yeah, it's not just about like we have a 3% better chance of winning this game if he plays or doesn't play down here. So, and I think also like Zadrius Rainey-Saleh's emergence probably dulls at least the value above replacement for Jacob Manu playing against Oregon. I mean, he's really good, and you should want him playing every game if he could. Like, him being on the field definitely makes them better. It would give them a better chance to beat Oregon. There's no question. But I think the fact that you have this really talented freshman who's come along and you're seeing, oh, okay, this is a guy that we can rely on for big time snaps. I don't know, maybe even more than they expected to by this point. I think they were very, very high on him and definitely planning for him to be involved. We can see now as soon as he got healthy. But, you know, you've got him, you've got Devin Bryant, you've got X-Ray Alexander, who's playing much better than he was early in the season. You have three guys there that you feel really good about by this point. You know, maybe when Jacob Manu was just getting back, starting to get cleared, you couldn't really see exactly what the future held for Zadrius Rainey-Saleh yet. You knew you were down Buda Alukta, and man, if it's just Alexander and Bryant, that gets pretty thin if one of those guys has to come off, and it's not like those guys can play every snap, so what do you do from there? So things have, from a personnel standpoint, things have broken in their favor, oddly, since Buda Alukta's injury, at least. So I think that maybe alleviates some pressure, but I would give the benefit of the doubt that they were going to honor that promise anyway.
I'll say the other thing is I think that long term, that is how you get the most out of players, is when you start making those sort of micromanagement decisions about what's best for the program. The trade-off for that is guys, players in general, and I think this happens at the pro level too, start to feel like tools that my body is used for the benefit of the team. And there's an element of that in football no matter what. But I thought that this was something that happened with the Seahawks throughout Pete Carroll's tenure, is that when you get guys to believe that your motivation is for them to be the best they can be, like that's what you want most, you end up getting more out of players than if it is sort of that ruthless corporate approach that's probably best embodied by Bill Belichick, which is, I'm the player, you're the coach. And it ultimately comes down to a difference between fear-based coaching and sort of relationship-based or love-based encouraging. And I don't know where, I'm not in meeting rooms. I don't see how Jed talks to his players. So I don't know exactly where on the spectrum he sits in terms of how he relates to guys one-on-one or with the team. But the idea of having a player, no, he wanted to play, this is the game that he wanted to play, is very much in line with that empowerment of I want the best for you. And I think ultimately as a coach, you get the most out of players when you do it that way.
I think back also to getting Javon and Armand Parker on the field together for, I think it was literally like 2 or 3 snaps at Michigan, close to where they grew up. Javon Parker obviously is like nowhere near being healthy enough to help them. I don't think he suited up again for this game. Armand Parker is now out for the season with another ACL injury. So, and like Jed Fish said after that game, like, yeah, Javon's dealing with a ton of injuries, but like, yeah, he can go out there for a snap or two, you know? So like just to have the thought to give them that memory, right? Like, sure, they had a ton of family there. Now all their family and friends who they grew up with, who care about them, can say that they got to see the twin brothers play next to each other at Michigan at the Big House in a college football game. A lot of coaches, that would be like, you know, maybe they'd think of it after, or it wouldn't occur to them, or it'd be like, no, like if you're not healthy enough to be in the rotation, like we're not going to run you out there. So that's another example that kind of comes to mind. And one thing too, in anybody who was in the crowd at this game, like, let me know if you picked up on this too. And I'm not certain that this is why, but it's a very funny coincidence if it's not. Down on the field in the last couple minutes when Washington still had the ball, UCLA student section was just like yelling like crazy at Washington offensive lineman Jack Schaefer, number 65. He's a true freshman. Think he's got a chance to be really good. True freshman who's redshirting. He doesn't play. and they were yelling, like chanting for him. I think yelling for like Washington to put him in the game. And then they did.
Oh, that's
They
funny.
put him out there. And
That's really funny.
He ran onto the field, and the student, what was left of the student section by that point in the game, the students just lost their mind. Like, our guy Schaefer's going in. And I saw it. There were a couple of us standing there, and we saw it, and we're like, did they put him in because the students were yelling because the other team students were yelling for him to go into the game? So I can't be certain. I can't be sure that that's why. But I kind of wonder.
That's great. I love it. That's hilarious. Yeah, like those are the things that it's the fun part of college sports is those little moments. I think that's awesome.
Another guy I saw in Pasadena, our guy IP.
Our weekly conversation with IP McFarland.
Good morning, Danny. Good morning, skinny Christian, who I barely recognized on Saturday. Obviously, as you can see, we're recording from the garage/home gym because my office is currently acting as a guest room as it's Thanksgiving week, and I don't make the calls here. Great to see a lot of Husky fans on Saturday night, just around the corner from my house. Lots of people apparently recognized me from YouTube and had great things to say about the podcast. Shout out to Justin and Bernie and Rachel, who I saw when we were all leaving in the early fourth quarter when the game was out of hand. Really nice people and had wonderful things to say. One person who approached me, I have to share because you guys will appreciate this. The person behind me in line to order a burger at the Husky tailgate, he said he recognized me because it took me so long and so many words to order my burger that he knew it had to be me, which is quite a statement from Dan from Bellingham because he's an attorney. So maybe I am going on too long. And as I look at the clock, it's 1:33 into this call, and I haven't even come close to a question yet. But the question's pretty self-explanatory. I think, unfortunately, we've probably seen Jonah Coleman's last touchdown in a Husky uniform. He's hurt. He looks pretty darn hurt. My hope is that Denzel Boston, whose parents listen to the podcast, they told me, is back. Let's say Denzel's back. Real simple. What's the scenario that gets Washington a win on Saturday? I know it's going to be hard. I know it's remote, but I still believe somewhere inside me that it's possible. Stan Lanning's still 1-3 against Washington and 0-3 in games of consequence. So as I do every time Washington plays the Ducks, guys, beat their until they cry. Go Dogs.
I think there's at least some chance that burger story is made up. But if it's not, that's very funny.
It was hilarious. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Also, the burger at the Rose Bowl is fairly delicious. I'll vouch for the burger. Yeah, I've had it several times. I love the Rose Bowl, but yeah. What's the scenario for Washington? We got to go past the obvious ones of like win the turnover battle, right? Like the scenario for Washington here is really, it's about limiting big runs.
Mm-hmm.
If you wanted to come down if they give up 3 or fewer runs of 10 yards or more and none of more than 20, I really like their chances of winning this game. Oregon's a really good offense, and they've got a great pass rush. They're a little down in receivers, but Sadiq might be the best tight end in the country, and it looks like he's back and healthy after being hurt earlier this year. I've been really impressed with their quarterback. I'm not. I don't know if their quarterback's going to come out. But if he does, I think he's a top 5 pick. And if he comes back, I think he'll end up being the number 1 overall pick in the 2027 draft. I think he's really good.
Yeah, Oregon top 5 nationally in yards per play. Offensively, top 5 nationally in yards per play allowed. Defensively, top 20 nationally in yards per pass attempt, and top 3 nationally, number 3 in yards per rush. They average 6.13 yards per rush. So, yeah, I know they've dealt with some injuries at receiver recently, a little bit banged up, but man, Oregon's offense they just keep humming. And when you mentioned Kenyon Sadiq, their big time running back transfer, like flat out didn't work out this year.
Bailed already, he's gone.
And they're still elite at running the ball.
Yeah, Whittington's pretty phenomenal.
The O-line is good. I mean, look, it's going to be a huge physical and athletic challenge. I think similar only to Ohio State as far as teams Washington has played this year.
Okay, so if Ohio State is the template, and we look that Washington played fairly well against Ohio State, I still feel that way in retrospect. What would need to happen in this game? Do they need to push? They need to get something going early on offense to make Oregon have to do something, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, it's such almost an insultingly no-brainer thing to say. They got to score touchdowns.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the 3 games they've lost, they've scored 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
In 3 games combined. So, a lot to like about Washington's offense this year. Certainly a lot to like about the way they've executed the last 2 weeks. Maybe they throw out most of the first half against UCLA without their guys, right? I mean, without their best running back, their best receiver, and 2 starting offensive linemen. They've gotten it done. But they played Purdue and UCLA, and when they have gone against good defenses, athletic defenses that recruited a high level, plus Wisconsin, which I think always has a pretty stout defense. They haven't scored. I mean, there were certain things to like against Ohio State. They got to the red zone and settled for a couple field goals. The fact is they didn't cross the goal line in that game. Did not score a touchdown. They scored 1 touchdown against Michigan. They were in the game till the last minute and a half of the third quarter, and then 2 picks were backbreaking, and that was kind of that. But really did not consistently put together drives in that game, and obviously didn't get that done against Wisconsin either. So for me, like, the next frontier, we talk going into Ohio State, this is going to be a barometer game, right? Like, you know what it looked like against Oregon and Penn State and Indiana and Iowa last year. Big physical teams with talent dominated them. They didn't belong on the same field with those teams. And it didn't really look that way against Ohio State. I would still contend that Ohio State out-talented them by a decent margin in the end. But the fact is, when the fourth quarter started, the score was 14-6 against what looks to me like the best team in the country, certainly the best defense in the country. It was week 4. They lost Carver Willis in that game. You want to make excuses, like, okay, but on the whole, they'd made progress based on how they performed against Ohio State, but they were still a ways away from really challenging to win that game. So how much different does it look against Oregon? Because I think, we've talked about the times throughout the season, how talented they are on the edge, how good they are up front. They've got a really good safety, Dylan Thieneman, good linebackers. Bryce Betcher is a playmaker. They got dudes everywhere again. And, I don't know, around, like, they lost at home to Indiana and then didn't play like awesome at home against Wisconsin. And so there was sort of that, like, little mini period where I think people kind of like, oh, maybe they can be got, right? Like, as Washington's looking as good as it's looked in a win against Illinois, maybe Oregon's starting to look just a little bit gettable. Okay. But then they go and win a really tough game in bad weather at Iowa. No bad way to win that game. They pull it out.
Come back from a late deficit with a sort of like identity affirming touchdown.
Yeah. Big time throw by Dante Moore, clutch field goal. And then they handled USC. Like, USC was chasing that whole game. Anytime they answered, like, Oregon would put together a scoring drive. And, I know USC had some really dumb penalties, and it maybe wasn't the cleanest game by them, but that's a big time must win, gotta have it game. And Oregon showed up, and they put up 40 plus on a team that had been playing really well itself, that had kind of, we talked last week, you didn't really buy it. Maybe you buy it even less now. Had kind of started to rebrand itself as maybe being a little bit tougher than what you'd come to expect from Lincoln Riley's USC team so far. And Oregon took it to them. And so that's like, there's no chance that Oregon comes into this game anything other than like maximally prepared and at the top of its game in terms of focus and preparation and everything. They know they have to win this game to assure their spot in the college football playoff. I don't know that with a loss here at 10-2 that they're definitely in. Maybe they still are. I don't know. Depends on how things break elsewhere. But can Washington put together drives?
Yep.
Can they run the ball if Jonah Coleman is either limited or playing but at less than 100%? Does this sort of new look offensive line? Maybe we'll find out more about Landon Hatchett's status. Maybe we won't. Do they continue to take a step forward and gel together? And then, do you have Denzel Boston to help challenge this secondary down the field? Do you get Raiden Vinesbright back to help out the depth there a little bit? So, I think you're looking for an explosive or two to help jumpstart things.
Maybe by that running back who seems to be very, very fast.
Yeah, he can run a little bit.
Man.
Maybe by Damon Williams. I think they've kind of been judicious about his designed runs. They used it very effectively against UCLA, but that's UCLA. So I don't know. I see a really talented Oregon team that's playing really well. And I have a hard time seeing Washington come out on top in this one. But I think you feel a lot better about Washington's chances of showing well and being competitive than you did coming out of Wisconsin. Like I think you like the way that they've sort of righted themselves the last 2 weeks.
Yes, and significantly better. Last year, you hoped that it wasn't a complete disaster, and it wasn't. I don't think Damon Williams was totally chewed up and spit out, but they were not competitive in that game, and I think they will be competitive. And I do believe if they can run the ball, if Washington can run the ball, and that's a huge if, and it's not something they've done consistently well. But I liked the combination of Adam Muhammad and Jordan Washington. If their path to winning this game is to sustain drives, like you said, and to put those drives in the end zone. And it's not, if it's a track meet. This is probably going to, no, it's not probably. If it's a track meet, Oregon has more horsepower on both sides. But if it's a game where Washington's defense minimizes the big plays and Washington's offense can sustain drives, that's their path to winning this game, is to hang around, to not let Oregon pull away.
Should note too, just like Washington, Oregon's dealing with a couple injuries on the offensive line. Isaiah World had been banged up and then played a little bit against USC, but not the whole game. He didn't start, and their starting center, I think, got hurt in the first half too. So, like any team, come November 29th, they're going to be dealing with some injuries. But these are two offenses that, if you want to generalize it, are both dealing with some shuffling on the O-line because of injuries, and also are down a couple receivers maybe. Again, we'll see. Maybe Denzel Boston's back. Obviously, Rashid Williams is not coming back, and we'll find out what Raiden Vinesbright's prognosis is coming off that concussion. Let's keep the Pac-12 power rankings short and sweet. I got to run up to Seattle here to hear what Jed Fish has to say. Obviously, Oregon holds on to the number 1 spot. Do we see reason to drop USC for that loss from number 2?
Yes, but I don't know.
You got Utah?
I don't know who to put in front of him. So yeah, let's go Utah. I think that's Lincoln Riley is what, he's 0-5 against top 10 teams now, or is it 1-5 against top 10 teams as USC's head coach? So yeah, they get dropped for that.
So, but only to number 3, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Arizona State, they're still 8-3.
Yeah, they are. They got it done. Arizona's 8-3.
Mm-hmm.
How about that? I still leave Washington ahead of Arizona, I think.
What do we do with Cal? Cal just fired its coach.
Yeah.
Ron Rivera underwhelmed with Justin Wilcox.
We gotta. The thing is, who jumps them?
Yeah.
So
there is a giant gap in the middle. Like there's a bunch of teams that are 8-3 or better, and there's a bunch of teams that are really bad.
If ever there were a year where like the bowl teams deserve to be playing in a bowl game, and all the teams that don't are not going to make one,
You
with
know
the
who
exception
might
of
be
maybe
next?
Cal.
The Fighting
What's that?
Cougs. The Fighting Cougs.
Yeah, man, they all they do is go on the road against teams that they on paper should not be competitive with and compete.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, they've been right there. They're right there with Ole Miss, right there with Virginia, right there with James Madison, which I know but it's James Madison. They've been really good for 3 years.
they're going to get bowl eligible this week too. They're going to beat Oregon State, so maybe they should be ahead of Cal.
Yeah, let's go Cougs, then Cal, then Stanford.
You've got the San Diego State data point screaming out pretty strongly there, right?
Yeah, you do. You do. San Diego State not nearly as bad as we thought.
Do we? You know what? No, I'm going to go Stanford ahead of Cal too.
Okay, that's fair.
I think after that performance,
Cal looked disinterested in that game.
And then we go. I mean, take your
Colorado.
pick. Jeez, I guess Colorado.
Yeah.
I guess Colorado, UCLA, Oregon State.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So what? 3 fired coaches in there?
Yeah.
Now? 4.
Cal, UCLA,
Stanford. I guess we count Stanford. Wasn't performance related, but
and OSU. Yeah, 4 to 12. Tough year, man. Tough year. 25% of the Pac-12 coaches fired during the season.
I saw John Wilner had a tweet about how like, hey, Cal needs an experienced head coach with West Coast ties who can name several California high schools, and one just became available because the Las Vegas Raiders fired him as their offensive coordinator.
How about that, man?
Yeah. I'm probably if I'm looking like when I think new blood, I don't think Chip Kelly.
No. So when you move from a head coach in college football to an offensive coordinator, you should forfeit the right to ever be head coach again.
Yeah, that's probably not someone you want to bet your future on.
Nah, I don't want to do that.
Thanks to anybody listening anywhere, everybody listening everywhere. Thanks for watching us on YouTube. Happy Thanksgiving, however you might celebrate or not. Enjoy the week. Enjoy the game Saturday. Enjoy Yosemite, Danny.
I will enjoy Yosemite and enjoy this little ditty. Now come listen to my story about the stupid ducks, a mediocre school whose football team sucked. Till old Kenny Wheaton, he made a lucky guess, and Sugar Daddy Phil, he funded their success. Next thing you know, the Ducks are stinking rich. Bunch of ugly uniforms, and every week they switch. They fashion themselves members of the national elite. But their local yokel fans were missing both their teeth.
Did you write that?
Yeah, I did.
I would have believed that was a Rick Neuheisel joint. We'll talk to you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.